Joon-Seo had killed men, stolen millions, and built an empire on fear and respect. But nothing in his dangerous life had prepared him for the sight of this woman dancing below him. She moved like sin wrapped in red silk, her dark skin glowing under the club lights, her body doing things that made him forget he was supposed to be in a business meeting. He stood up without thinking, drawn to her like a magnet. He had to touch her, talk to her, taste those lips that kept curving into a smile. His associates could wait. She couldn't. The bass thumped through the walls of Crimson Lounge, Dallas's most exclusive nightclub where only the wealthy and powerful could enter. Joon-Seo Park sat in the VIP section, his dark eyes scanning the crowd below, while his associates discussed territory disputes and money transfers. At 32, he controlled half of Dallas's underground operations, a position that made him both feared and respected. Tonight was supposed to be just another business meeting, nothing special, nothing memorable. Then he saw her. A woman moved onto the dance floor with a confidence that made everyone else fade into the background. She wore a red dress that hugged every curve of her body, and her dark skin glowed under the club lights. She wasn't young, probably in her 40s, but that made her even more attractive. She moved her hips to the music, dancing freely, completely lost in the rhythm. Her hair fell in long braids down her back, swaying as she moved. Joon-Seo felt his chest tighten. He had been with many women, beautiful women, who threw themselves at him because of his power and money, but none of them had ever made him feel this immediate pull. "Boss, are you listening?" His associate Young-ho waved a hand in front of his face. Joon-Seo ignored him, standing up abruptly. "Handle the meeting. I'll be back." He walked down the stairs from the VIP section, moving through the crowd with purpose. People stepped aside when they recognized him. Some whispered, others simply moved out of respect. Joon-Seo didn't care about any of them. His focus was entirely on the woman in red. She was dancing with her friends now, laughing at something one of them said. Up close, she was even more beautiful. Her smile was genuine, reaching her eyes in a way that told him she wasn't trying to impress anyone. She was just enjoying herself. "Can I buy you a drink?" Joon-Seo asked, stepping beside her. She turned to look at him, and he felt the full force of her gaze. Her eyes were sharp and intelligent, taking him in from head to toe. She didn't look impressed by his expensive suit or the respect people showed him. "I can buy my own drinks," she said, her accent revealing she wasn't from America originally. "But thank you." She turned back to her friends, dismissing him completely. Joon-Seo felt a smile tug at his lips. When was the last time someone had rejected him? "Then dance with me," he said, not giving up. "I'm dancing with my friends. One dance. If you don't enjoy it, I'll disappear and never bother you again." She studied him for a long moment, then shrugged. "One dance. Then you leave me alone." Her friends giggled and pushed her toward him. Joon-Seo took her hand, leading her to a slightly less crowded part of the dance floor. The music shifted to something slower, more sensual. She placed one hand on his shoulder while he rested his hand on her waist. The touch sent electricity through his body. "What's your name?" he asked. "Makena." "Makena," he repeated, liking how it sounded. "I'm Joon-Seo." "I know who you are," she said, surprising him. "Everyone in this club knows who you are. And yet you still said no to my drink offer." "Money and power don't impress me. I've seen too many powerful men fall to believe it means anything real." They moved together, and despite her words, Joon-Seo felt her body relax against his. She fit perfectly in his arms, like she belonged there. "Where are you from?" he asked. "Rwanda. I moved to Dallas 5 years ago to work as a nurse." "A nurse," he said, genuinely interested. "That's honorable work. More honorable than whatever you do, I'm sure." He laughed, a real laugh that surprised even himself. "You're not wrong. The song ended, but neither of them stepped apart. Makena looked up at him, and he saw something in her eyes that matched what he was feeling. Attraction, curiosity, maybe even the beginning of something dangerous. "The dance is over," she said softly. "Give me your number." "Why would I do that?" "Because you feel this too, whatever this is between us." She hesitated, then pulled out her phone. "I'll give you my number, but I'm warning you now. I don't play games, I don't do drama, and I definitely don't date men whose lives are built on danger." "Noted," Joon-Seo said, typing his number into her phone and calling himself so he'd have hers. Before she could walk away, he caught her hand. "Makena, I want to see you again soon." "We'll see," she said, pulling her hand free gently. "Good night, Joon-Seo." He watched her return to her friends, who immediately surrounded her with questions. Joon-Seo stood there, feeling like the ground had shifted beneath his feet. In all his 32 years, through all the violence and chaos of his life, he had never felt this way about anyone. "Boss, we have a problem." Young-Ho appeared at his elbow, looking worried. Joon-Seo dragged his attention away from Makena. "What is it?" "Dmitry Volkov is here. His men just arrived and they're asking for a meeting with you." Joon-Seo's jaw tightened. Dmitry Volkov was a Russian mobster who had been trying to muscle into Dallas territory for months. He was dangerous, ruthless, and completely without honor. "Where is he?" "Back section near the bar." Joon-Seo looked once more at Makena, memorizing the way she looked under the club lights, then turned to handle business. He walked to the back section where Dmitry sat with 4 of his men, all of them looking smug and confident. Dmitry was a big man, with cold blue eyes and a scar running down his left cheek. He smiled when he saw Joon-Seo, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Park," Dmitry said in his thick accent. "I was hoping we could talk business." "This isn't the time or place," Joon-Seo replied coldly. "Oh, I think it is. You see, I've been very patient. I've asked nicely for a piece of Dallas, but you keep saying no. Maybe it's time we stop asking nicely." Joon-Seo's men tensed, hands moving toward their weapons. The air grew thick with tension. "If you want war, Dmitry, I'll give you war. But trust me, you won't like how it ends." Dmitry laughed, but his eyes were calculating. Then his gaze shifted past Joon-Seo, and his expression changed to something predatory. Joon-Seo turned to see what he was looking at, and felt his blood run cold. Dmitry was staring directly at Makena. "Beautiful woman," Dmitry said casually. "Very beautiful. I saw you talking to her earlier. Friend of yours?" Joon-Seo kept his face blank, but inside, alarm bells were ringing. He had made a mistake by approaching Makena so publicly. Now Dmitry knew she was important to him. "Just someone I met tonight," Joon-Seo said carefully. "No one important." "Good," Dmitry said, still watching Makena. "Then you won't mind if I introduce myself." Before Joon-Seo could respond, Dmitry stood and started walking toward Makena. Joon-Seo followed quickly, his heart pounding. This was exactly the kind of situation he had always avoided. He never let people close because they became targets. And now, after knowing Makena for less than an hour, she was already in danger. Dmitry reached Makena just as she was saying goodbye to her friends. "Excuse me, beautiful lady, I couldn't help but notice you from across the room." Makena looked at him with the same unimpressed expression she had given Joon-Seo earlier. "I'm leaving. Have a good night." "Just one moment of your time," Dmitry pressed, moving to block her path. Joon-Seo stepped between them smoothly. "The lady said she's leaving. Move." Dmitry's eyes glittered with amusement. "So she is important to you? Interesting?" Makena looked between them, confusion and concern crossing her face. She was smart enough to sense the danger in the air. "I don't know what's happening here, but I want no part of it," she said firmly. She looked at Joon-Seo. "Don't call me. I was wrong to give you my number." She walked past both of them, her friends hurrying after her. Joon-Seo watched her go, feeling something crack in his chest. "A shame," Dmitri said softly. "She seems like a good woman, too good for our world. It would be terrible if something happened to her because she got involved with the wrong people." The threat was clear. Joon-Seo turned to face Dmitri, his voice dropping to a deadly whisper. "If you go near her, if you even think about her, I will burn your entire organization to the ground and salt the earth where it stood. Are we clear?" Dmitri smiled. "Crystal clear, Park, crystal clear." As Dmitri walked away, Joon-Seo stood frozen, his mind racing. He had just met Makena, barely knew her, but already she was in danger because of him. The smart thing would be to let her go, to never contact her again, to keep her safe by staying away. But even as he thought it, he knew he couldn't. Something had awakened in him tonight, something he thought had died years ago in the violence and darkness of his life. He pulled out his phone and looked at her number. Tomorrow he would call her. Tomorrow he would find a way to protect her while still being near her. Tomorrow he would start fighting for something more than territory and power. Tonight he had found something worth risking everything for. Makena's phone buzzed for the 10th time that morning. She glanced at the screen while checking her patient's blood pressure and saw Joon-Seo's name again. Good morning texts, questions about her day, compliments that made her smile despite herself. For 3 days straight he had been relentless. "Someone's popular," her co-worker Fatima said with a knowing grin. "That's the same guy who's been texting all week, isn't it?" Makena finished noting her patient's vitals before responding. "He's persistent, I'll give him that. And gorgeous from what you told me. Girl, why are you making him suffer? Because men like him are used to getting whatever they want." "I'm not whatever. I'm someone, and he needs to understand that." But even as she said it, Makena felt her resolve weakening. There was something different about Joon-Seo. His texts weren't just smooth lines. He asked real questions. He remembered details she mentioned. He made her laugh with observations about his day, and underneath it all she sensed a loneliness that matched her own. Her phone buzzed again. This time it was a photo. Joon-Seo had sent a picture of the sunrise with the message, "Saw this and thought of you. Everything beautiful reminds me of you now." Fatima looked over her shoulder and squealed. "Oh, he's good. Makena, put that man out of his misery and say yes to a date." Makena bit her lip, then typed back, "Fine, one date, tomorrow evening, but I choose where we go." The response came immediately. "Anywhere you want. I'll pick you up at 7. The next evening, Makena waited in front of her apartment building, wearing a simple yellow dress and flat sandals. When Joon-Seo's black car pulled up, she half expected him to be disappointed by her casual choice. Instead, when he stepped out, his face lit up like she had given him the greatest gift. "You look incredible," he said, taking her hand and kissing it gently. He wore dark jeans and a white button-down shirt, with the sleeves rolled up, looking more relaxed than he had at the club, more human, more real. "So where are we going?" he asked as he opened the car door for her. "Clyde Warren Park. There's a food truck festival tonight." She watched his face carefully for signs of disappointment. Rich, powerful men usually wanted fancy restaurants, where they could show off. But Joon-Seo just smiled. "Perfect. I can't remember the last time I did something normal like that." The park was crowded with families, couples, and friends, enjoying the warm evening. String lights hung between trees, live music played from a small stage, and the smell of different foods filled the air. Tacos, barbecue, Thai food, desserts, everything mixed together in a delicious chaos. Joon-Seo held her hand as they walked, and Makena noticed how people still recognized him. Some stepped aside, others whispered. But here, in the open park, with children running around and dogs playing, he seemed less threatening, more like just a man on a date. "What do you want to eat?" he asked. Everything, Makena laughed. Let's try a little bit from different trucks. They loaded up on Korean tacos, loaded fries, mango sticky rice, and fresh lemonade. Finding a spot on the grass away from the crowds, they sat down and started eating. Joon-Seo ate like he was discovering food for the first time, genuinely enjoying the simple meal. "This is amazing," he said, devouring a taco. "I usually eat at expensive restaurants where the portions are tiny and I leave hungry." "That's because you've forgotten how to enjoy simple things," Makena said, wiping sauce from the corner of his mouth with her napkin. The gesture was intimate, caring, and she saw something shift in his eyes. "Tell me about Rwanda," he said softly. "What made you leave?" Makena looked up at the darkening sky, gathering her thoughts. "After the genocide, my country rebuilt itself. My parents survived, and they wanted a better future for me. I became a nurse there, but opportunities were limited. When I got a chance to come to America, they pushed me to take it. So I left everything I knew and came here alone. That must have been terrifying." "It was. I arrived in Dallas with 2 suitcases and a nursing certification that took me 6 months to get recognized here. I worked 3 jobs for the first year, sending money back home, barely sleeping. But I made it work." Joon-Seo reached over and took her hand. "You're the strongest person I've ever met." "I'm just someone who did what she had to do." "What about you? How does a Korean man end up running half of Dallas?" His expression darkened. "My father brought me here when I was 12. He worked in the organization, doing small jobs at first. When I was 16, he was killed during a territory dispute. The boss at the time took me in, trained me. I was good at the work. Too good. By the time I was 25, I was running operations. At 30, the old boss retired and left everything to me. Do you like it? The life you have?" Joon-Seo was quiet for a long moment. "I'm good at it. It provides security, power, money. But like it? No. I don't think I've liked anything in a very long time. Until now." He looked at her with such intensity that Makena felt her breath catch. The space between them seemed to shrink. "Joon-Seo, I need you to understand something. I saw what happened at the club with that Russian man. I'm not stupid. I know your world is dangerous. I've built a quiet, peaceful life here, and I won't let anyone destroy that. I would never let anything happen to you. You can't promise that. Men in your position can't protect everyone, and I won't be someone's weakness, someone used against you. Then let me be strong enough to protect us both." Before she could argue, he stood and pulled her up with him. "Come on, I want to show you something." They walked to a quieter part of the park where fewer people gathered. The music from the festival faded to a gentle background noise. Above them, stars were starting to appear despite the city lights. "When I was young, before everything went bad, my mother used to take me to parks like this in Seoul," Joon-Seo said quietly. "She would point out stars and tell me stories about them. After she died, I stopped looking up, stopped seeing beauty in anything." He turned to face Makena, cupping her face gently in his hands. "Then I saw you dancing in that club, and it was like someone turned the lights back on, in a room that had been dark for years." "Joon-Seo," Makena whispered, her heart pounding. "I know you're scared. I know this is complicated, but I haven't felt alive in so long, and you make me feel everything." He leaned down slowly, giving her time to pull away. But Makena didn't want to pull away. She stood on her tiptoes and met him halfway. Their lips touched, soft at first, then deeper. His arms wrapped around her waist, pulling her close, and she felt safe despite everything. The kiss was tender but passionate, full of promise and possibility. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Makena rested her forehead against his chest. "This is crazy. We barely know each other." "Then let's get to know each other. Give me a chance, Makena. Give us a chance." She looked up at him, seeing vulnerability in his eyes that she suspected few people ever saw. Against every logical thought in her head, her heart was already making the decision. "Okay," she said softly, "but slowly. We take this slow." "As slow as you need," he promised, kissing her forehead. They stayed in the park until late, talking about everything and nothing. He told her about his love for old movies, his terrible cooking skills, his secret dream of owning a legitimate business one day. She told him about her family back home, her close group of friends, her fear of never finding real love. When he finally drove her home, he walked her to her apartment door like a gentleman. "Can I see you again tomorrow?" he asked. "I work a double shift tomorrow." "The day after?" "I'll wait however long you need me to." He kissed her again, slower this time, savoring it. When Makena finally went inside, she leaned against her door, touching her lips and smiling like a teenager. Her phone buzzed. Joon-Seo had texted. "Already missing you," she typed back. "Me too." What Makena didn't know was that across the city, in a dark office, Dmitry Volkov was looking at surveillance photos of her and Joon-Seo at the park. He smiled coldly, already planning how to use this weakness against his rival. "Find out everything about this woman," he told his assistant. "Where she works, where she lives, who her friends are. Everything." The game had begun, and Makena was now a piece on the board, whether she knew it or not. Makena sat frozen on her couch, staring at the television screen. The news reporter stood in front of a warehouse on the outskirts of Dallas, yellow crime scene tape fluttering in the wind behind her. "Police are investigating what appears to be a targeted attack on a known criminal organization. 3 men were found dead at the scene. Authorities believe this is connected to ongoing gang violence in the Dallas area. Sources say the warehouse belongs to interests associated with Joon-Seo Park, a suspected organized crime leader." The remote fell from Makena's hand. Joon-Seo Park, his full name right there on the news, connected to dead bodies and crime scenes. She grabbed her phone and called him immediately. He answered on the first ring. "Makena, I was just about to call you." "What did you do?" Her voice shook with anger and fear. "I just saw the news. 3 people are dead, Joon-Seo. Dead." Silence on the other end. Then, quietly, "Where are you?" "Home." "Don't come here. I don't want you anywhere near me right now." "Makena, please let me explain." "Explain what?" "That you're exactly who I feared you were, that while we've been going on dates and holding hands, you've been ordering people killed." "It wasn't like that. I didn't order anything. Dimitri's men attacked one of my warehouses. My people defended themselves. It's complicated." "No, it's simple. You're a criminal, a killer, and I was stupid enough to start falling for you." She heard him take a sharp breath. "You're falling for me? That doesn't matter now. This is over, Joon-Seo. Whatever this was between us, it's done. Don't do this. Let me come over. Let me talk to you face to face." "No. Lose my number. Forget you ever met me." Makena hung up before he could respond. Then she turned off her phone and let herself cry. She cried for the connection she felt with him, for the gentle way he held her hand, for the vulnerability in his eyes when he talked about his mother. She cried because for the first time in years, she had started to believe she could have something real, and now it was shattered. For 2 weeks, Makena threw herself into work, double shifts, extra hours, anything to keep her mind busy. Her friends noticed the change but didn't push when she said she didn't want to talk about it. At night, alone in her apartment, she would sometimes turn on her phone and see the dozens of messages from Joon-Seo. "Please talk to me. I miss you. I understand you're angry, but don't shut me out. I'm not asking you to accept my life. I'm just asking for a chance to explain." She never responded, but she read every message, and each one made her heart ache a little more. On the 15th day, Makena finished a particularly hard shift. She had lost a patient, a young mother who came in too late with complications. Standing in the hospital parking lot, watching the sun set, Makena felt the weight of everything crash over her. Life was short, unpredictable. People died suddenly, leaving behind unfinished conversations and unresolved feelings. She thought about her parents who survived a genocide and still found the courage to love each other, to rebuild. She thought about the young mother who would never get to see her children grow up. She thought about Joon-Seo, who had grown up surrounded by violence but still looked at stars and remembered his mother's stories. Before she could overthink it, Makena got in her car and drove to the address she had never been to but had memorized from his texts. The mansion sat behind high gates on the edge of the city. She pulled up to the intercom and pressed the button. "Yes?" A gruff voice answered, "I'm here to see Joon-Seo. My name is Makena." There was a pause, then the gates swung open immediately. As she drove up the long driveway, her heart pounded. The mansion was huge, beautiful but cold-looking. Guards stood at various points watching her car approach. Before she even parked, the front door opened and Joon-Seo ran out. He looked terrible. His hair was messy, his eyes had dark circles under them, and he wore sweatpants and a wrinkled t-shirt. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. Makena stepped out of her car just as it started to rain. Big, heavy drops that quickly soaked through her scrubs. "Makena," he said, stopping a few feet away from her like he was afraid she might disappear. "You came. I shouldn't have. This is a mistake." "Then why are you here?" The rain poured harder. Makena's hair stuck to her face, her clothes plastered to her body. "Because I can't stop thinking about you. Because every logical part of my brain says to stay away, but my heart won't listen. Because I'm terrified and angry and falling in love with you, and I don't know what to do about it." Joon-Seo closed the distance between them in 3 long strides. His hands cupped her face, rain streaming down both of them. "Say that again." "What part?" "The part about falling in love with me." "I'm falling in love with you," Makena whispered. "Even though it's stupid and dangerous and probably going to destroy me." He kissed her then, hard and desperate, like he was drowning and she was air. Makena kissed him back with equal intensity, her hands gripping his wet shirt, pulling him closer. The rain continued to fall around them, but neither noticed or cared. When they finally broke apart, both gasping for breath, Joon-Seo pressed his forehead to hers. "Come inside, please. Let me explain everything." She nodded, and he took her hand, leading her into the mansion. Inside, he grabbed towels and wrapped one around her shoulders. They stood in his enormous living room, water dripping onto marble floors. "I was born into this life," Joon-Seo started, his voice raw with emotion. "My father made choices that put me on this path. By the time I was old enough to understand what it all meant, I was already too deep to get out. Yes, I run a criminal organization. Yes, people have died because of decisions I've made. I won't lie to you about that." Makena listened, her heart breaking and mending at the same time. "But I've never killed anyone who didn't come after me or my people first. I've never hurt innocent people. I protect my territory, I handle my business, and I try to minimize casualties. That warehouse attack, Dimitri's men came with guns, trying to steal my shipment and kill my workers. We defended ourselves. That doesn't make it better, Joon-Seo. I know, but I need you to understand something. Before I met you, I accepted this life. It was all I knew, all I thought I deserved. Then you walked into my world, and suddenly I could see a different future, one where I'm more than this." He took her hands in his. "I can't change my past, but I can change my future. If you give me a chance, I'll find a way out of this life. It won't be easy or quick, but I'll do it. For you. For us. You can't just walk away from being a mob boss, no, but I can transition out, set up legitimate businesses, hand control to someone else gradually. It might take a year, maybe 2, but I'll do it." Makena looked into his eyes and saw the truth there. He meant every word, but she also saw the danger, the reality of what being with him meant. If I stay, if I choose this, I need you to promise me something. Anything. No more secrets. No more protecting me by keeping me in the dark. If there's danger, I need to know. I'm a grown woman who survived leaving everything behind to start over in a foreign country. I'm stronger than you think. I promise. Complete honesty from now on. And you have to actually work toward getting out, not just talk about it. I'll start tomorrow. I have connections in real estate and import businesses. Legitimate operations. I'll build something clean. Makena stepped closer to him, still wrapped in the towel. I'm scared. Me too, he admitted. I've never felt this way about anyone. You have the power to completely destroy me, Makena. Then we'll just have to not destroy each other. She reached up and kissed him, softer this time, but no less passionate. His arms wrapped around her waist, pulling her against him. The kiss deepened, growing more urgent. Joon-Seo's hands moved up her back, and Makena felt heat spreading through her body. Stay tonight, he whispered against her lips. Stay with me. Yes, she breathed. He picked her up easily, carrying her through the mansion to his bedroom. The room was surprisingly simple for such a large house. A huge bed, dark furniture, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city lights. Joon-Seo set her down gently, looking at her like she was precious, something to be cherished. Are you sure? Instead of answering with words, Makena pulled him down to her, kissing him with all the emotion she had been holding back for 2 weeks. His hands trembled slightly as he helped her out of her wet clothes, and she realized he was nervous too. This meant something to both of them. This wasn't casual. They made love slowly, tenderly, learning each other's bodies and responses. Joon-Seo was gentle but passionate, constantly checking that she was okay, that she wanted this. Makena had never felt so connected to another person. Every touch, every kiss, every whispered word built something between them that felt unbreakable. Afterward, they lay tangled together, her head on his chest, his fingers tracing patterns on her bare shoulder. I love you, Joon-Seo said quietly. I know it's fast and crazy, but I love you, Makena. She tilted her head up to look at him. I love you too. God help us both, but I do. He kissed her forehead, holding her tighter. Outside, the rain had stopped, and the city lights twinkled like the stars he used to watch with his mother. Neither of them knew that across town, Dmitri was finalizing plans that would test their love in ways they couldn't imagine. War was coming, and Makena was about to learn exactly how dangerous loving Joon-Seo Park could be. But for now, in this moment, they had each other, and for now, that was enough. 3 months passed, and Makena couldn't remember a time when she had been happier. She and Joon-Seo had fallen into a rhythm that felt natural despite the unusual circumstances. She still worked her nursing shifts at the hospital, maintaining her independence while he slowly started building legitimate business ventures just as he had promised. Makena kept her own apartment but spent most nights at the mansion. She had transformed parts of his cold, empty house into a warm home. Pictures on the walls, colorful throw pillows on the leather couches, plants in every room that got sunlight. Joon-Seo's men noticed the change in their boss too. He smiled more, laughed at their jokes, seemed lighter somehow. Your woman has magic powers, Young-ho joked one afternoon, while reviewing business reports. Boss used to bite our heads off for small mistakes. Now he just shakes his head and tells us to fix it. Joon-Seo couldn't deny it. Makena had changed him fundamentally. She cooked traditional Rwandan food that filled the mansion with delicious smells, sambusa and isombe and brochettes that his men would beg to try. She sang while doing dishes, danced around the kitchen in the mornings, brought life to every corner she touched. Their physical connection had only grown stronger. Some mornings, Joon-Seo would wake up early just to watch her sleep, amazed that this incredible woman had chosen him. Other times, Makena would wake him with kisses that led to slow, passionate lovemaking as the sun rose over Dallas. "Good morning," she would whisper against his lips, her accent thick with sleep. "Best morning," he would correct, pulling her closer. Tonight, Joon-Seo had something special planned. He had asked Makena to invite her closest friends over for dinner, wanting to properly introduce himself to the people who mattered to her. She seemed nervous about mixing her two worlds, but he could tell she was also pleased that he wanted to make the effort. Fatima, her co-worker from the hospital, arrived first with her husband. Then came Patience, another Rwandan woman who had helped Makena when she first arrived in Dallas. Lastly, her friend Jerome, a fellow nurse who had been skeptical of Joon-Seo from the beginning. "So you're the mysterious boyfriend," Jerome said, shaking Joon-Seo's hand with a grip that was just a bit too firm. "Makena's been keeping you hidden." "Not hidden," Makena interjected quickly. "Just private, there's a difference." Dinner was surprisingly easy. Joon-Seo had hired a chef to prepare both Korean and Rwandan dishes, wanting to honor both their backgrounds. He told stories about his mother, carefully avoiding anything related to his criminal work, and asked genuine questions about each person's life. By dessert, even Jerome seemed to be warming up to him. After dinner, while Makena showed Fatima the garden, Jerome pulled Joon-Seo aside. "Listen, I'm going to be straight with you. Makena is like a sister to me. She's been through a lot to get where she is, and she doesn't need some rich guy playing with her heart." "I'm not playing," Joon-Seo said seriously. "I love her." "Love isn't enough if your lifestyle puts her in danger. I've heard things about you, about what you do." "Is any of it true?" Joon-Seo considered lying, then remembered his promise to Makena about honesty. "Some of it, yes, but I'm working to change that, for her." Jerome studied him for a long moment. "She deserves the world. Can you give her that?" "I'll spend the rest of my life trying." Something in Jerome's expression softened. "Okay then, but hurt her and you'll have bigger problems than whatever business rivals you're dealing with." After her friends left, Makena found Joon-Seo in his office, staring at paperwork with a troubled expression. "What's wrong?" she asked, wrapping her arms around him from behind. "I got a call earlier. There's a problem with my visa extension application." Makena's heart sank. She sat down across from him. "What kind of problem?" "Apparently, someone filed a complaint questioning the legitimacy of my business applications. Without approval, I might have to leave the country in 60 days. "Who would do that?" "I have my suspicions." Dimitri's cold smile flashed through his mind. "But I can't prove it. There has to be something we can do." Joon-Seo reached across the desk and took her hand. "There is. Senator Morrison owes me a favor, a big one. He can make this go away, but it will cost me. He'll want something in return." "What kind of something?" "A delivery route through Dallas for some questionable shipments. Nothing that will hurt anyone directly, but still illegal. Still dirty." Makena felt torn. She hated the idea of Joon-Seo getting pulled deeper into criminal activity, but she also couldn't imagine him being forced to leave. "What do you want to do?" "I want to tell Morrison no and find another way. But realistically, he's my best option. Without his help, I'll be deported to Korea, where I have nothing and no one. Then do what you have to do. But this is the last time, Joon-Seo. After this, no more compromises. No more deals with corrupt politicians or dirty favors. I promise. This is the last time." He made the call that night, and within a week, his visa issues disappeared, as if they had never existed. But Makena saw how it weighed on him, the guilt of taking one step back when he was trying to move forward. To cheer him up, she surprised him one evening by clearing space in his study and setting up a projector. She had researched his favorite old Korean films and found several classic movies to watch together. They sat on the floor surrounded by pillows and blankets, eating popcorn and watching the black and white films he loved. Joon-Seo pulled her close, kissing the top of her head. "How did I get so lucky?" he murmured. "I ask myself the same thing," Makena replied, snuggling deeper into his embrace. Later that night, as they lay in bed, Joon-Seo traced his fingers along her arm thoughtfully. "Move in with me, officially. Give up your apartment and make this your home." Makena turned to face him. "Are you sure? That's a big step." "I've never been more sure of anything. I want to wake up with you every morning. I want to come home to you every night. I want this to be our home, not just mine. What about your work? Your men coming and going at all hours? I'll set boundaries. Business meetings happen in the office downtown, not here. This place should be our sanctuary." Makena thought about her small apartment with its second-hand furniture and thin walls. Then she thought about this mansion that she had already started making her own, about waking up in Joon-Seo's arms, about building a life together. "Okay," she said, smiling. "I'll move in." The joy on his face made her decision feel absolutely right. He kissed her deeply, rolling her beneath him, showing her without words how much her answer meant to him. They made love tenderly, passionately, sealing this new commitment to each other. Over the next few weeks, Makena slowly moved her belongings into the mansion. It wasn't much, but each item represented her independence and hard work. Joon-Seo helped her hang her nursing degree on the wall, insisting it deserved a place of honor. One evening, Makena was cooking dinner when she heard loud voices from Joon-Seo's office. She walked quietly down the hall and heard Joon-Seo arguing with someone. "I don't care what Dimitri is offering. The answer is no." It was Joon-Seo's voice, hard and cold, in a way she rarely heard. "Boss, he's not offering. He's demanding. Either we give him access to the eastern routes or he'll take them by force." That was Young-ho. "Then let him try." "I'm not giving that snake anything." He mentioned the woman, said it would be a shame if something happened to her while she was at work. Silence. Then furniture scraping. Makena peeked around the corner and saw Joon-Seo slam his hands on the desk, his face twisted with rage and fear. Did he threaten Makena directly? Not directly, but the implication was clear. Makena stepped into the doorway. Both men turned to look at her, surprise on their faces. "What's going on?" she demanded. "Who threatened me?" "Makena, go back to the kitchen. This is business." Joon-Seo's voice was strained. "No. You promised me honesty, remember? What's happening?" Joon-Seo looked at Young-ho, who took the hint and left the room. Then he walked over to Makena and took her hands. "Dmitry Volkov, the Russian I told you about, is trying to expand his territory. He wants routes I control, and he's using you to pressure me." Fear shot through Makena's chest, but she kept her voice steady. "What exactly did he say?" "His messenger said it would be a shame if something happened to you at the hospital. It's a standard intimidation tactic. He won't actually do anything." "You don't know that." "I won't let anything happen to you. I'll assign guards to watch you at work, have someone follow you everywhere." "I can't live like that, Joon-Seo. I can't have bodyguards following me around the hospital while I'm trying to work." "Then what do you suggest?" "Because I'm not taking any chances with your safety." Makena took a deep breath, thinking, "Teach me to protect myself. Get me a gun. Teach me to use it. Install better security in my car. But I won't hide or live in fear." "Makena, that's not enough." "It has to be. Because if I let this man change how I live my life, he's already won. I won't give him that power." Joon-Seo pulled her into his arms, holding her tight. "You're the bravest person I know. But you're also the most precious thing in my life, and the thought of losing you terrifies me." Then we'll be careful. Together. But we won't let fear control us. That night, neither of them slept well. Joon-Seo held Makena close, listening to every sound in the house, while Makena tried not to show how scared she really was. What they didn't know was that Dmitry wasn't making idle threats. He had already put surveillance on Makena, learning her schedule, her routes, her routines, and he was preparing to make a move that would change everything. The calm they had built was about to shatter, and the storm coming would test whether their love was strong enough to survive. Makena finished her shift at Memorial Hospital, exhausted but satisfied. It had been a good day. 3 successful surgeries she had assisted with, and all her patients were stable. She changed out of her scrubs, said goodbye to Fatima, and headed to the parking garage. The concrete structure was dimly lit, her footsteps echoing as she walked to her car. Joon-Seo had wanted to send a driver, but she had insisted on maintaining some normalcy. Now, alone in the quiet garage, she wondered if that had been a mistake. She clicked her key fob, and her car lights blinked in response. Almost there. Just a few more steps. The attack came from behind. A cloth pressed over her mouth and nose, smelling sweet and chemical. Makena tried to scream, tried to fight, but her nursing training told her exactly what was happening. Chloroform. Her limbs grew heavy, her vision blurred. The last thing she saw before darkness took her was the concrete floor rushing up to meet her. When Makena woke up, her head pounded and her mouth tasted like metal. She was sitting in a chair, her hands zip-tied behind her back, her ankles bound to the chair legs. The room was dark except for a single bulb hanging from the ceiling. Warehouse. She could tell from the echo and the smell of oil and dust. Good, you're awake. A man stepped into the light. He was big, with cold blue eyes and a scar down his cheek. Dmitry Volkov. She recognized him from the club months ago. Makena's heart raced, but she kept her face calm. You made a mistake taking me. Dmitry laughed. Did I? I don't think so. You're exactly where I want you to be. Joon-Seo will come for me. I'm counting on it. That's the whole point, beautiful lady. He circled her chair slowly. You see, your boyfriend has something I want. Territory, money, respect. But he refuses to share. So now I have something he wants. You. He won't give you what you want just because you have me, won't he? I've watched you two together. I've seen how he looks at you, like you're the only thing in the world that matters. A man like that will do anything to keep his woman safe. Makena said nothing, refusing to give him the satisfaction of seeing her fear. Here's what's going to happen. Dmitry continued, pulling out a phone. I'm going to call Park. I'm going to tell him I have you, and he's going to sign over his Eastern Territory operations to me. Simple trade. And if he doesn't? Dmitry's smile turned cruel. Then I start sending him pieces of you until he changes his mind. He made the call, putting it on speaker. Joon-Seo answered immediately, his voice tight with tension. Volkov, what do you want? I have something of yours, Park. Something very precious. There was a pause. Then Joon-Seo's voice came through, deadly calm. If you've touched her, I'll kill you slowly. She's fine, for now, but that could change quickly. I want your Eastern Territory, all of it. Sign it over to me and she goes free. Let me talk to her. I need to know she's alive. Dmitry held the phone to Makena's face. Go ahead, say hello to your boyfriend. Joon-Seo, don't give him anything, Makena said quickly. I'm okay, don't let him win. Dmitry pulled the phone away. Brave woman, stupid but brave. You have 24 hours, Park, Eastern Territory for your woman. If I don't have signed documents by this time tomorrow, things get unpleasant. He hung up before Joon-Seo could respond. Meanwhile, across the city, Joon-Seo stood in his office, surrounded by his most trusted men. His hands shook with rage and fear as he lowered the phone. Young-ho, gather everyone, every man we have. I want them ready to move in 1 hour. Boss, We don't know where she is yet. Then we find out. Call in every favor, threaten every informant, check every warehouse Dmitry owns or has used. I want her location within the hour. What about the territory? Are you actually going to give it to him? Joon-Seo's voice dropped to a whisper that was somehow more terrifying than shouting. I'm not giving him anything except a bullet between his eyes. Move. Now. His men scattered, making calls and mobilizing forces. Joon-Seo paced his office like a caged animal. The thought of Makena, scared and alone, made him want to burn the entire city down. His phone rang. Unknown number. He answered immediately. Boss, it's Felix. One of his street informants. I heard Dmitry has been using an old meat-packing plant outside Austin, abandoned place on Route 71. Might be worth checking. How sure are you? 80%. Saw his men moving equipment there last week. If you're right, there's 50,000 in it for you. If you're wrong, don't let me find you. Joon-Seo hung up and called Young-ho. Route 71, old meatpacking plant outside Austin. Get satellite images, heat signatures, everything. I want to know exactly how many men he has there. On it, boss. 2 hours later, Joon-Seo stood in the back of an SUV, studying building layouts and guard positions. 20 of his best men surrounded him, armed and ready. There are 12 guards visible, Young-ho reported, probably more inside. Heat signatures show at least 15 people in the building. Makena's one of them. That means 14 enemies. We go in quiet if we can, loud if we have to. Primary objective is getting Makena out safely. Secondary is killing Dmitry. Everyone clear? Yes, boss. They drove through the night, 3 vehicles full of armed men. Joon-Seo checked his gun for the 10th time, his jaw clenched so tight it ached. Every minute felt like an hour. Inside the warehouse, Makena had been moved to a smaller room. Her hands were still tied, but she had been working at the zip tie, trying to loosen it. Her wrists were bleeding from the effort, but she felt it starting to give. The door opened and a guard entered with a bottle of water. Boss says to keep you alive and comfortable. He's not a monster. Just a kidnapper and a criminal, Makena said. The guard shrugged and set the water down before leaving again. As soon as the door closed, Makena redoubled her efforts on the zip tie. Her nurse training had taught her about body mechanics and stress points. She twisted her wrists, pulling in opposite directions, and finally felt the plastic snap. Her hands were free. She quickly worked on the ties around her ankles, her fingers clumsy from reduced blood flow. She had just freed her second ankle when she heard gunshots outside. Joon-Seo had arrived. The assault happened fast. Joon-Seo's men took out the outside guards silently, then breached the main warehouse. Gunfire erupted, echoing through the metal building. Dmitry's men returned fire, but they were outnumbered and outgunned. Joon-Seo moved through the chaos with deadly precision, his only thought finding Makena. He kicked down door after door, clearing rooms, until finally he found the one she was in. Makena stood pressed against the far wall, her hands bleeding, her eyes wide with fear and relief. Makena, he breathed, crossing the room in 2 strides. She threw herself into his arms, and he held her so tight she could barely breathe. You came. Always, I'll always come for you. He pulled back to look at her face, checking for injuries. Did he hurt you? No, I'm okay, just scared. We need to move. Stay behind me. He led her out of the room, shielding her body with his. The gunfire had mostly stopped, replaced by the moans of injured men. Young-ho appeared around a corner. Boss, we got most of them, but Dmitry escaped out the back. We're tracking him now. Let him go. Get Makena to the car. That's the priority. Young-ho nodded and took Makena's arm gently. Come on, ma'am. Let's get you safe. Joon-Seo watched them go, then turned back to the warehouse. His men were securing the area, tying up the surviving guards. But Dmitry's escape gnawed at him. This wasn't over, not while the Russian was still alive and dangerous. In the car, Makena sat wrapped in Joon-Seo's jacket, her hands bandaged, her body shaking with delayed shock. Joon-Seo held her close, murmuring reassurances and pressing kisses to her hair. "I thought I might never see you again," she whispered. "I would have torn the world apart to find you. There's nowhere you could be that I wouldn't follow." Back at the mansion, Joon-Seo carried Makena straight to their bedroom. He ran her a bath, helped her wash away the ordeal, tended to her wounds with gentle hands. Then he held her in bed, both of them too wound up to sleep. "This has to end," Makena said finally. "Dmitry, the territory war, all of it. I can't live wondering when the next attack will come. I know, and it will end. Soon." "How?" Joon-Seo's expression hardened. "By finishing what Dmitry started. He came after you, crossed a line that can't be uncrossed. Now I'm going to make sure he regrets it." Makena heard the deadly promise in his voice and knew that the man she loved was capable of terrible things when protecting what mattered to him. Part of her should have been horrified. Instead, she felt only gratitude and love. "Just come back to me when it's done," she said, "always." They held each other as the sun rose over Dallas, both knowing that the real war was just beginning. The attack on Dmitry's warehouse had consequences. Over the next 2 weeks, Dallas turned into a war zone. Dmitry struck back at Joon-Seo's operations, burning down a storage facility and killing 3 of his men. Joon-Seo retaliated by shutting down Dmitry's drug distribution network and taking control of key supply routes. The violence escalated daily. Makena stayed in the mansion, surrounded by guards 24 hours a day. She couldn't go to work, couldn't see her friends, couldn't live her normal life. The mansion that had felt like a home now felt like a beautiful prison. "I hate this," she told Joon-Seo one evening as they ate dinner in tense silence. "I'm trapped here while you're out there, risking your life every day. It's temporary, just until I deal with Dmitry permanently. When will that be? When will this be over?" "Soon," he said, but they both heard the uncertainty in his voice. Makena stood up from the table, her frustration boiling over. "I didn't sign up to be a prisoner. I didn't fall in love with you to spend my days locked in a house, wondering if you'll come home alive. What do you want me to do?" Joon-Seo stood too, his own stress showing. "Let you walk around unprotected while Dmitry is still out there planning revenge? I want you to trust me. I want to be part of the solution, not just something you need to protect. You are not part of this world, Makena. You're the one good, clean thing in my life, and I won't let it touch you more than it already has. But it has touched me. I've been kidnapped, threatened, and now imprisoned in my own home. I'm already part of it, whether you like it or not." They stared at each other across the dining table, both breathing hard, both scared and angry in equal measure. "I can't lose you," Joon-Seo said finally, his voice breaking. "You're everything to me." Makena's anger softened. She walked around the table and took his hands. "Then stop trying to fight this war alone. Let me help. Let me be your partner in all of it, not just the good parts." "How? You're a nurse, not a soldier. I'm smart, I'm resourceful, and I know things about Dmitry's operation now from when he held me. Let me use that. Let me be useful instead of useless." Joon-Seo pulled her into his arms, resting his chin on top of her head. "You could never be useless, but you're right. I've been treating you like something fragile when you're actually one of the strongest people I know." That night, they made love with a desperation that spoke to how close they had come to losing each other. Afterward, as they lay tangled together, Joon-Seo made a decision. "I'm ending this. One way or another, within the week, Dmitry will be gone and this war will be over. How? I'm going to hit him where he lives, his main compound, all his top lieutenants in one place. One massive strike that cripples his entire organization. That sounds incredibly dangerous." "It is. But it's the only way to end this completely. Half measures just prolong the violence. Makena was quiet for a moment. When? 3 days. I'm gathering. Intelligence now, planning the best approach. It has to be perfect. Then I'm coming with you. Absolutely not. Hear me out. You'll need a medic, someone who can patch up your men if things go wrong. I'm a trained trauma nurse. I've dealt with gunshot wounds, stab wounds, all of it. Makena, no, it's too dangerous. It's dangerous for everyone involved. At least let me be useful. Let me help keep your men alive. Joon-Seo wanted to argue, but he saw the determination in her eyes. She had made up her mind, and he knew her well enough to know she wouldn't back down. You stay in the vehicle at all times. You only come out if someone is injured and needs immediate care. And if things go badly, you drive away and don't look back. I'm not leaving you. That's the deal, Makena. Take it or I lock you in the panic room for 3 days. She glared at him, then nodded. Fine, I'll stay in the vehicle unless needed. The next 3 days passed in a blur of preparation. Joon-Seo met with his most trusted men, going over building layouts and attack strategies. Makena prepared medical supplies, packing trauma kits, and studying how to treat combat injuries in field conditions. The night before the operation, neither of them could sleep. They made love slowly, tenderly, as if memorizing every touch in case it was their last time together. Promise me you'll be careful, Makena whispered against his chest. Promise me you'll drive away if things go wrong. I promise to try. That's the best I can do. Joon-Seo held her tighter. If something happens to me tomorrow, I want you to know that these months with you have been the best of my life. You made me believe I could be more than what I was born into. Nothing's going to happen. We're both going to survive this, and then we're going to build that quiet life you promised me. I love you, Makena. I love you too. The next evening, 25 armed men gathered at the mansion. Joon-Seo addressed them in the living room, his voice calm and authoritative. Tonight we end this war. Dmitry Volkov has terrorized this city long enough. He came after my woman, killed our brothers, and tried to take what's ours. Tonight we show him the cost of that mistake. The men cheered, checking their weapons and preparing for battle. Makena sat in the medical vehicle, which had been reinforced with armor plating. Young-ho would drive, and she would stay in back with the supplies. She wore dark clothes and had pulled her hair back into a tight bun. Despite her fear, she felt strangely calm. This was her choice. She was here because she loved Joon-Seo and wanted to help keep him safe. The convoy of vehicles drove through Dallas toward the industrial district, where Dmitry's compound sat. Joon-Seo rode in the lead vehicle, going over the plan one more time with his team leaders. They parked 2 blocks away and approached on foot. The compound was a large warehouse surrounded by a high fence and guarded by armed men. Joon-Seo's team split into 3 groups, each approaching from a different direction. The attack began at exactly midnight. Joon-Seo's men cut the power to the compound, plunging everything into darkness. Then they breached the fence and poured in, moving with military precision. Gunfire erupted immediately. Dmitry's guards had been prepared for an attack, and they fought back fiercely. Joon-Seo moved through the chaos like a ghost, taking down enemies and pushing towards the main building where intelligence suggested Dmitry would be. Inside the medical vehicle, Makena listened to the battle over the radio, her heart in her throat every time she heard Joon-Seo's voice calling out commands. Man down, southeast corner, someone called over the radio. I'm on it, Makena said, grabbing a medical kit before Young-ho could stop her. She ran toward the compound, staying low and using vehicles for cover. She found the injured man, one of Joon-Seo's newer recruits, with a bullet in his shoulder. Working quickly, she stopped the bleeding and stabilized him enough to be moved. Get him back to the vehicle, she told another guard. More calls came over the radio, more injuries. Makena moved between casualties, working with calm efficiency despite the bullets flying around her. Her medical training kicked in, overriding her fear. Inside the main building, Joon-Seo finally found Dmitry in what looked like an office. The Russian stood behind a desk, a gun in his hand, a cruel smile on his face. "Park, I was wondering when you would show up. It's over, Dmitry. Your men are dead or captured. Surrender and maybe I'll let you live." "Let me live?" Dmitry laughed. "You think you've won? Even if you kill me tonight, there will be others. There's always someone ready to take what you have. Then I'll deal with them too. I'm done playing your games." Dmitry raised his gun, but Joon-Seo was faster. 2 shots to the chest, and the Russian fell back against the wall, blood spreading across his shirt. Joon-Seo walked closer, looking down at his enemy. "That's for touching what's mine." But as Dmitry fell, his finger squeezed the trigger reflexively. The bullet caught Joon-Seo in the side, spinning him around and dropping him to his knees. "Boss is hit!" Young-Ho's voice came over the radio, panicked. "We need medical now." Makena's blood ran cold. She ran toward the main building, no longer caring about her own safety. She found Joon-Seo on the floor of the office, Young-Ho pressing a jacket against his bleeding side. "Move," Makena said, pushing Young-Ho aside and examining the wound. The bullet had gone through, which was good, but he was losing a lot of blood. "Hey, beautiful," Joon-Seo said weakly, trying to smile. "I thought I told you to stay in the vehicle." "Shut up and let me work," Makena said, her hands moving with practiced efficiency. She packed the wound, started an IV, gave him antibiotics to prevent infection. "Is he dead?" Joon-Seo asked, nodding toward Dmitry's body. "Yes, it's over. Good, now we can have that quiet life." "Not if you die on me, we can't. Stay with me, Joon-Seo. Stay awake." They got him to the vehicle and rushed him to a private doctor that Joon-Seo kept on retainer. The doctor worked for 3 hours to repair the damage, and Makena assisted, her medical training proving invaluable. When it was finally over and Joon-Seo was stable, sleeping under sedation, Makena collapsed in a chair beside his bed. Young-Ho brought her coffee and sat down across from her. "You saved his life tonight, the boss, and probably half a dozen of our men." "I just did what I'm trained to do." "No, you did more than that. You showed courage under fire. The men respect that. Respect you." Makena looked at Joon-Seo's pale face, his chest rising and falling steadily. "Is it really over?" "The war with Dmitry, yes. But the boss still has a long road ahead if he wants to go legitimate like he promised you. He will. We both will. Together." Young-Ho stood to leave, then paused at the door. "For what it's worth, I've never seen the boss happy until you came along. Whatever happens next, thank you for giving him that." Alone with Joon-Seo, Makena took his hand and held it to her cheek. "You scared me tonight. Don't ever do that again." Even in sleep, his fingers tightened around hers, as if promising he wouldn't. Outside, Dallas was quiet again. The war was over, but for Joon-Seo and Makena, the hardest part was just beginning, building a new life from the ashes of the old one. 6 months had passed since the night Dmitry died. Joon-Seo spent 3 weeks recovering from his gunshot wound, and during that time he had made good on his promises. He appointed Young-Ho to run the criminal operations while he focused on building legitimate businesses, real estate investments, import companies, restaurants, all legal, all clean. It hadn't been easy. Some of his former associates felt betrayed, thinking he was abandoning the life. Others tried to challenge his authority, seeing his transition as weakness. But Joon-Seo handled each situation with the same cold efficiency that had made him powerful in the first place. Anyone who came after him or Makena learned quickly that stepping back from daily operations didn't make him any less dangerous. The biggest shock came when Young-Ho called an emergency meeting 6 weeks after the Dmitry situation. We have a problem, boss. Someone inside the organization has been feeding information to the FBI. Several of our operations have been compromised. Joon-Seo sat in his office, Makena beside him. He had started including her in business meetings, valuing her perspective and intelligence. Who? Joon-Seo asked. Young-ho looked uncomfortable. The evidence points to Hwan. Joon-Seo felt like he had been punched in the gut. Hwan had been his second in command for years, someone he trusted completely. Are you absolutely certain? I have phone records, bank deposits, everything. He's been working with the FBI for at least 6 months. He was also feeding information to Dmitry, which is probably how the Russian knew so much about our operations. Makena reached over and took Joon-Seo's hand, feeling him trembling with rage and betrayal. Where is he now? Waiting in the conference room downstairs. He doesn't know we've figured it out yet. Joon-Seo stood up, his face like stone. Keep him there. I'll deal with this. Joon-Seo, Makena said softly, what are you going to do? What has to be done? He betrayed me, betrayed all of us. He's the reason Dmitry knew about you, the reason you were kidnapped. I know you're angry, but if you kill him, you'll be giving the FBI exactly what they need to arrest you. Is revenge worth throwing away everything we're building? Joon-Seo looked at her, seeing the wisdom in her words, even through his fury. Then what do you suggest? Turn him in yourself. Give the FBI everything they need to prosecute him. Show them you're cooperating, that you're trying to go legitimate. It might buy you goodwill when they start looking at your past activities. Young-ho spoke up. She's right, boss. If we handle this the old way, it puts everyone at risk. But if we cooperate with law enforcement, it shows we're changing. It went against every instinct Joon-Seo had. In his world, betrayal meant death, always. But he was trying to leave that world behind. For Makena. For the future they wanted together. Set up a meeting with the FBI. I'll hand over Hwan and all the evidence we have. In exchange, I want immunity for my transition out of criminal operations. It took weeks of negotiations, but eventually a deal was struck. Hwan was arrested and charged with multiple crimes. In exchange for Joon-Seo's cooperation and his commitment to fully exit criminal activities within 2 years, the FBI agreed not to prosecute him for past crimes. With that weight lifted, Joon-Seo and Makena finally felt like they could breathe. They sold the mansion in Dallas, too full of bad memories, and moved to Denver, Colorado. The mountains and fresh air felt like a new beginning. Joon-Seo bought a modest house, nothing like the mansion, but it was theirs. Makena got a job at a local hospital, returning to the work she loved. Joon-Seo spent his days building his legitimate business empire, discovering he was just as good at legal enterprises as he had been at illegal ones. 3 months after moving to Denver on a beautiful fall day, Joon-Seo took Makena hiking in the Rocky Mountains. They climbed to a scenic overlook with views that stretched for miles. It's beautiful up here, Makena said, breathing in the clean mountain air. Not as beautiful as you, Joon-Seo said, and when she turned to tease him about being cheesy, she found him down on one knee. Her hands flew to her mouth. Joon-Seo? Makena, the day I saw you in that club, my life changed. You brought light into darkness, hope into despair, love into a heart I thought was dead. You stood by me through war, betrayal, and danger. You saved my life in more ways than one. He pulled out a ring, a simple diamond that caught the sunlight. Will you marry me? Will you let me spend the rest of my life proving I'm worthy of your love? Tears streamed down Makena's face. Yes. Yes, of course, yes. He slipped the ring on her finger and stood, pulling her into a kiss that felt like coming home. Below them, Denver spread out in the valley, their new life waiting. They got married 2 months later in a small ceremony with just their closest friends. Fatima, Jerome, and Patience flew in from Dallas. Young-ho came too, having become something like a brother to Joon-Seo over the years. Makena wore a simple white dress, and Joon-Seo cried when he saw her walking down the aisle. Their vows were personal, written by them, full of promises about the future rather than regrets about the past. "I promise to choose you every day," Makena said, "to stand beside you in sunshine and storm, to build a life that honors both our journeys. I promise to protect you, cherish you, and love you until my last breath," Joon-Seo responded. "To be worthy of the gift you've given me by believing in who I could become." The reception was joyful and loud, full of dancing and laughter. At one point, Makena pulled Joon-Seo aside, away from the celebration. "I have something to tell you," she said, her eyes shining with excitement and nerves. "What is it?" "I'm pregnant. We're going to have a baby." Joon-Seo's expression went through shock, joy, and wonder in rapid succession. He dropped to his knees and pressed his ear against her still flat stomach. "Hello in there," he whispered. "I'm your dad. I can't wait to meet you." Makena laughed and cried at the same time, running her fingers through his hair. "Are you happy?" He stood and cupped her face in his hands. "Happy doesn't even begin to describe it. You've given me everything, Makena. Everything I never knew I wanted or needed." 7 months later, their daughter was born. They named her Hope because that's what she represented. Hope for the future, hope for redemption, hope for love conquering all odds. Joon-Seo held his tiny daughter in the hospital, tears streaming down his face. "She's perfect. She's absolutely perfect." Makena watched her husband with their child and felt a peace settle over her that she had never known before. They had traveled such a long, hard road to get here, through danger and violence, through fear and uncertainty, but they had made it, together. "What are you thinking about?" Joon-Seo asked, noticing her expression. "About that night in the club, about how I almost didn't give you my number. I would have found another way. I told you then, I wanted you. I always get what I want." "So arrogant," Makena teased. "So lucky," he corrected, leaning over to kiss her while carefully holding their daughter. "So incredibly, impossibly lucky." As the sun set over Denver, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, the little family sat together. Joon-Seo, the reformed criminal who had found redemption through love. Makena, the brave nurse who had risked everything for the man she loved. And Hope, their daughter, representing everything they had fought for and everything they would protect with their lives. The past couldn't be erased, but it could be overcome. The future couldn't be guaranteed, but it could be built with love, patience, and commitment. And in that moment, in that hospital room, they had everything they needed. "I love you," Joon-Seo whispered to Makena. "I love you too, forever, forever," he agreed, and kissed her once more. Outside, the city lights began to twinkle on, each one a small hope in the darkness. And inside, a family began their new chapter, proof that even the most broken people could find healing, that even the darkest pasts could lead to bright futures, and that love, real love, could conquer anything. The end was just the beginning. If you enjoyed this story, please subscribe to our channel. Let us know where you're watching from in the comments below, and don't forget to hit that like button. Your support means everything to us.